rescue Wop, save the dinosaurs from an island that's about to explode. What could go wrong?
Hello, welcome to the Fallen Kingdom. We'll return to Jurassic World 1 minute at a time. I'm Brad.
I'm Dave.
And in this minute we're talking about... And this week we're talking about minute 14 of Fallen Kingdom. But before we get to that, David, heading over to Jurassic-Pedia.com, we've got an article up here by Tyrannosaur TJ on the film's villain. One of the film's villain, or the main big bags, Eli Mills, gets introduced in this minute. We can probably wait until the end of the film where we rank him alongside the other villains we've seen so far, the Hoskins, the Ludlows. Definitely the youngest villain, I would say, being in his mid-30s. I think I'd have to look down at the article. 88, yeah, so mid-30s. Yeah, sorry, just reading the article. So again, like the other characters we've looked at, we've got the biography here, his full role in the movie here. Unfortunately, doesn't survive the movie, so not coming back for Dominion. Not even named in Dominion, so no legacy there either. His involvement with Lockwood, the Lockwood Foundation, and Lockwood Estate, and all that sort of stuff as well. So a good long read here. A little bit of a write-up with his involvement with Hoskins and the Ibris Project as well. So that's starts to bleed in some of the things we didn't quite know what was going on in Jurassic World with Wu, with the whole hybrid program, and then later where Wu was evacuated to by the mercenaries. So a good little write-up on Mills. I was going to bring up his Rafe Spall's IMDb, but I had to look through and didn't recognise anything, so I didn't think it was really going to be worth it. I know a lot of people have issues with, say, your Star Wars and that when they cast well-known actors to play. I just love the films when you have these. I'm not going to say nobodies, but they're just people I've never seen before. The same with Zia and Franklin. Claire I'd only seen in Terminator Salvation. So again, just unlike Chris Pratt, you haven't got the Star-Lord baggage. This is the only thing you've seen the actors in. So you're not expecting things from other films to bleed in or what have you. So again, we get our bad guy here. Didn't know him from anything else, so we'll pay attention as we move through the minutes and see how good a job he does.
Yeah.
So for articles on Eli Mills, we're going to touch on Ted Levine in a little bit as well. Head over to Jurassic-Pedia.com for that and many more articles.
Hello, Claire. I'm Eli Mills. I work for Ben Lockwood. We actually met once 7-8 years ago, and you don't remember.
Of course, I remember. Haven't you run his foundation since
college? Yeah. You remember?
Yes.
Wow, cool. He wanted someone young and idealistic to spend his fortune, and I used to be both.
Dave, ready to jump into minute 14?
I am.
Alright, minute 14 of Fallen Kingdom opens with Mills misreading the script and ends with Mills telling Claire that there's something Mr. Lockwood wants her to do. As we continue from minute 13 of Fallen Kingdom, we had the little ad-lib from Mills, and he continues describing Hammond as the father of Jurassic Park, which I'd hope Lockwood explains in later minutes, but doesn't really. We know Mills is going to say this minute that he and Lockwood, that Hammond and Lockwood first extracted their first bit of DNA in the sublabs of the mansion. It's just weird that Mills doesn't say one of the fathers of Jurassic Park. Again, you've got Lockwood in this movie, but Lockwood's not really being included in the history here.
Well, interestingly enough, Lockwood seems to almost get out of the game even before Jurassic Park becomes a thing. Like, he was aware that that was what Hammond wanted as the end game, and even so much as had, like, that scale modeling and stuff. But, the visitor center is not the finished visitor center that we see in the movie, and everything about Lockwood seems like he was there for more the cloning than he was specifically the park. Like, the park seems to be more Hammond's side of the idea, whereas Lockwood was there more for the cloning side.
Well, that would make sense as to why Henry comes back to here. But then you sort of, it's hard when you have the original novel, you have InGen, the creation of InGen and everything else, and at the time there's no Lockwood because Fallen Kingdom doesn't exist, and now trying to retcon Lockwood back into the early days of InGen. If InGen were even involved at the point where this lab's built and they start cloning, there's got to be something else that he goes to, not only to keep profits up, but we know Charlotte Lockwood is here in this lab in the 2000s doing God knows what, eventually cloning herself and doing the research on herself. But again, there's something's got to be done there to keep the lab going. Yeah. Again, something that's never really explained.
Well, it seemed from Mills's explanation that the lab kind of fell into disruin when the split happened, and that Lockwood seemed more content to just forget about the whole thing until his daughter died. Then Hammond seemed to be the one that continued the dream without Lockwood.
Mm. Well, it also makes sense why... No, not really, it's InGen again. Oh, it's a mess. I'd assumed it was financial. Maybe Lockwood was adding a few extra zeros to the checks and that to help out, and that's why if you're one of the biggest investors, and you're going to have a model of the park and that sort of stuff here of how much of a dinosaur nut he is, obviously, because the mansion's still set up as a as a paleontology museum, pretty much. Don't know. But Mills walks down the stairs, taking off his glasses, introducing himself as Eli Mills, and that he works for Ben Lockwood. Again, sort of showing a little bit of that younger personality there, calling him Ben Lockwood, and not his real long, full name, like older people would. The two had met 7 years earlier, and someone thought that would have been a great place to set a new novel. I have not read The Evolution of Claire. Have you?
I read like half of it and got bored. It's mostly it's like, as far as I could tell, a prequel to Jurassic World and not so much like any kind of sequel.
Yeah, well, the 7 years would have put their meeting before Jurassic World. I know there is a section in there where Claire and Mills meet. Can you remember anything? I've got no intention of reading it, so I don't know.
As far as I know, Mills doesn't even make an appearance. Like, it's all about Claire's first time on the island and everything, and apparently Masrani had paid off a previous intern's family who had gotten left behind on the island when they were first doing construction, and Velociraptor apparently escaped and killed him.
Oh, all right. We'll leave the Evolution of Claire aside then. So basically, this minute's got two big exposition or info dumps. First one here, Mills, learning that Mills ran Lockwood's foundation since college. Lockwood wanted someone young and idyllic to spend his fortune. It's sort of weird. Even if Mills is sort of in his late 30s now, assumably he would have went to college to do some sort of business degree or something like that, you'd think. So he's probably been at it for 10 to 15 years, spending the old man's money. A bit of a weird partnership.
Well, I looked at Rafi Spall's age, and he's 39 now, so he would have been about 35 when this came out. So yeah, mid-30s would make sense.
Yeah, okay, yeah. But dream job. Live in this sweet pad. Hopefully it's got good Wi-Fi, and spend money for the old man. It probably wouldn't be the best job if you didn't like dinosaurs or anything like that, because you're surrounded by all this stuff every day.
Mills kind of comes across as the guy who he likes Mills. And he's going to do what's best for Mills, even if it means screwing an old man out of his money.
Well, you can guarantee there's a he's got a garage at the back with his favourite cars in it, or movie room, theatre room, or whatever. Like, yeah, he's looking after himself.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, the car that Claire arrived in is called, the vanity plate says Lock 1, or what was it? No, it was Lock 2 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was definitely Lockwood's car that he sent for her.
Yep. No,
Yeah, Lock 1.
I missed that. But Mills leads Claire into the main hall, although it's described as a library in the novelisation, so we know the upper part's the library anyway, but down the bottom has all the dioramas and that we get to see later. But
Dioramas, museum skeletons. This is a nice pad.
Yeah, yep.
I wouldn't mind this being my library.
I know how much dust my house gets in it. Poor old Iris would need a team of 20 cleaners just to keep all this polished timber and.
I imagine she probably did, because like there's no dust that you can even see on this diorama here. Like, it's been polished. The whole thing is just very clean. I'm sure I in terms of the staffing, Iris is probably in charge of a whole team of maids and servants.
This may be a thought for the end of the film where we have the Indoraptor running around, but maybe it's the team of cleaners running around picking up the bodies and cleaning. They've been scolded for having someone walk through the house with muddy boots before, and they're there to clean no matter what the risk. But as Mills leads Claire into the hall, here's the start of another big info dump with the backstory. This is where it all began. Before the islands, sauna, Jurassic Park, all of it, Hammond and Lockwood built a custom lab in the sub-basement and extracted the first DNA from Amber right beneath our feet. Which, again, we've sort of touched on what the partnership was and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of, the lab can go against everything we've learnt from the novels and early. We know InGen went to Costa Rica to get away from the regulations and the rules of the US anyway. That's why we have in the novel the whole bison rabies incident in Chile, where bison goes to Chile and releases rabies on a farm to test it because they can, really. Not doing it on US, the people on the farm don't know any different. But I suppose we could say, right, well, Lockwood and Hammond here, they extracting the first DNA, testing the science before creating InGen, and then looking for a larger location to continue the research and make their dinosaurs, because we know there's cages in that here, but I don't think these cages would have been used early on for animals.
Honestly, I mean, like, they have those kennels that are down there, so I imagine that they probably did.
Mm. Well, then it goes back to the whole, I think the novel again, or it might be Trespasser Law, the baby raptor, showing off the baby raptor to investors and that.
I think it was Trespasser where it was the baby raptor, and they went with Triceratops on the Maserati, or not Maserati. It was like the Maserati back door, I think, that had said Triceratops was the first cloned dinosaur in 1985 or something like that, 86.
Mm.
But yeah, and that I know came from concept art of Crash McCreary's that showed a baby Triceratops in the egg instead of the baby raptor.
Yeah, true. Which then I suppose is again another callback to the original novel where Hammond had the pygmy elephant, I think, to show that the cloning was possible.
Yeah, if I recall, it wasn't actually even a actually genetically engineered animal. It was just a pygmy elephant that they had grown in an artificial womb and purposely kept malnourished so that it wouldn't grow very big, which just turned out to kind of actually really piss it off, leaving a really bad attitude towards humans.
I would have loved when we do get down to the lab and the sub levels to see it wouldn't be the same maquette, the miniature of Jurassic Park San Diego, but that makes so much more sense here now with where this location is in Northern California.
Mm-hmm.
You create the animals here, then truck them down the road to San Diego to your zoo.
Yeah.
It's all a whole lot cheaper. We know at some point they decide, well, no, we're going to go to Costa Rica and build a destination island resort thousands of miles from nowhere.
Well, interestingly, that the Indian waterfront complex was conceptualized as being like right next to Jurassic Park San Diego, so they probably could have put them on the dock, shipped them out from Lockwood's basement to the park right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. And that's where the sort of timelines start getting. You said that baby trike was like 85, which would have been around the same time this lab was developed. It was only a year or two later when we start getting construction on sauna. So either they learnt that this lab under Lockwood Manor was not going to be big enough to house the animals, or they just wanted to gain that secrecy and seclusion of being on the islands. But at some point there, mid-80s, towards the end of the 80s, that production blew up for them, and they were going from doing a small clutch of eggs to what we get on sauna with the full lab and hatchery.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we don't even know how much trial and error they went through with getting that first live birth. In the novel, it seems it's made implied in the Lost World novel that it would take dozens of batches to get a single live birth, and that doesn't even guarantee that it grows up healthy.
1 in 100 eggs would have a successful hatchling.
Yeah,
Malcolm says in the novel.
and,
Which is, again, that's what he's saying. The whole thing in that novel is Jurassic Park was too clean. There should have been eggs, and that just didn't suit the production to get enough to get a population of dinosaurs to fill the park.
Well, that's why they ended up needing Sorna. So it's possible that Hammond realized that it just wouldn't have been viable doing this out of a basement, and that they would need, in order to stock the park to the hundreds of animals that we are implied to exist already on the Isla Nublar, that they would need a much, much larger production scale than was available to them in that little laboratory.
Plus, you got to assume that Wu was spending some time in this lab as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they extracted their first DNA sample from the amber, but there's so much more involved. The whole amphibian DNA is the key to fill in the sequence gaps, and all that sort of stuff would have taken time. And you'd assume the three of them were all here in this lab doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm just trying to think. Because Charlotte Lockwood visited Jurassic Park when she was a baby. Gets her, she had a birthday party on Sauna. 12th party or something on Sauna, so she would have been too young to be involved in it as well.
Mm-hmm.
By the time she was old enough to know what was going on, it would have been well and truly Sauna and Nublar. And if any further research continued down there, or as you said, it was just closed off and sealed up, and everything was then done off the mainland.
Mm-hmm.
But Claire acts like a bit of a fangirl here and says what they did here was a miracle, and after a pause says, I still believe that. And Mills agrees, says he believes they can do something to help these animals. And as the minute ends, Mills tells Claire that there's something Mr. Lockwood would very much like her to do, which is sort of that weird English dialogue there that comes across. And I suppose he is an English actor, so you're going to impart that in here a little bit. We discussed a lot there. Anything else before we get into the novel, briefly?
No, I think we're good.
All right. The meaning goes the same, but there's some extra dialogue. Your park, Jurassic World, was Mr. Lockwood's favourite place, better than he and Mr. Hammond ever imagined, which this comes in after the John Hammond father of Jurassic Park. So I wonder if Lockwood had been to, obviously if it's his favourite place, he'd been there several times. Mm-hmm. To Jurassic World, which is something we don't get in the film at all. Claire replies they must have been quite a team, and Mills continues, a dreamer and a philanthropist. damn it, a philanthropist, limited only by imagination, and then he speaks in a Scottish accent. He spoke that in a Scottish accent, and he says, that's my John Hammond imitation, and it's terrible. So I'm glad we didn't get him trying to do a John Hammond impersonation in the film.
Yeah, no, that would have been awful. Which is kind of funny because Raphael Spall, like you said, is English, so it probably would have been purposely bad.
Mm-hmm. Well, you'd have to go over the top.
I mean, come out sounding like Groundskeeper Willie.
Oh, yeah, it would have. It would have too. I can see it now. But that's it for null comparisons, and that's it for minute 14. Dave, bit of a longer record, but there was a bit more there to talk about. But how about we get out of here for the weekend? We'll be back next week with minute 15.
All right, sounds good.
All right, lovely.
I was going to say that T-Rex and Spinosaurus are natural enemies, like T-Rex and raptors, and T-Rex and Triceratops, and T-Rex and T-Rex. Damn T-Rex, they ruined my skin.
Akma Shack!
You T-Rex sure are contentious dinosaurs. You just made an enemy for life.
It's probably a good thing we don't try and do accents on that.